First contact in crisis. The Meridian Empire's most advanced warship, the Stellar Vanguard, drifted silently through the void, its crystalline hull reflecting the distant starlight like a diamond suspended in space. Admiral Vexera stood motionless on the command deck, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with a dull red glow that betrayed her growing despair. Before her, a holographic display showed the latest devastation. The Centauri Nexus, once home to billions, had fallen to the entropy cascade. The entropy cascade. Even thinking about it made her inner light dim further. It had started 3 cycles ago on the outer rim, a phenomenon that defied the laws of physics themselves. Entire star systems were experiencing accelerated entropy, causing matter to break down at the atomic level. The Meridian Empire's finest minds had failed to even slow its progress, let alone stop it. Admiral, her second-in-command, Commander Zoe, approached with characteristic precision. The Council demands an update on containment efforts. Vexera's tendrils coiled tightly against her body. Show them. The holographic display expanded, revealing the faces of the Council members, the 12 most powerful beings in the known galaxy. Their bioluminescence flickered with anxiety as they absorbed the data streaming before them. Impossible, Councillor Meth whispered, his crystalline form trembling. The quantum barriers failed. Not just failed, Vexera responded, her voice hollow. The cascade consumed them. Our most advanced technology, thousands of years ahead of any other known civilization, might as well have been cosmic dust. The silence that followed was deafening. The Meridian Empire had ruled the galaxy for millennia, their mastery of quantum mechanics and biological engineering creating what they had thought was the perfect civilization. Now they watched helplessly as it crumbled before them. A junior officer interrupted the silence, his markings flashing urgent patterns. Admiral, we're detecting thousands of unknown vessels entering the galaxy through the Perseus Arm. Vexera spun around, her tendrils extending in alarm. Hostile. Unknown. But the officer paused, his lights pulsing in confusion. They're using primitive fusion drives. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. The Council erupted in chatter. Primitive fusion drives. No spacefaring race still used such outdated technology. The display shifted, showing a massive fleet of small angular ships. They were ugly by Meridian standards, all hard lines and exposed metal, without a trace of the crystalline biotechnology that marked advanced civilization. A transmission cut through their confusion, carried on simple radio waves. The voice that came through was unlike any they had heard before, lacking the musical harmonics of Meridian speech. This is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Federation. We detected your quantum distress beacon. We're here to help. Humans, the primitive species from the spiral arm that the Empire had dismissed centuries ago as too primitive to contact. Vexera had read reports about them. A young race, barely 1,000 years into space travel, still using chemical rockets and nuclear fission when they were first discovered. Help. Councillor Meth's voice dripped with scorn. What could they possibly? Another transmission interrupted him. We've analyzed your quantum beacon data. You're dealing with an entropy cascade, aren't you? We've seen something similar before, though not on this scale. Request permission to dock and share our findings. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded the humans be sent away. How dare these primitives presume to help the mighty Meridian Empire? Others, including Vexera, saw no choice. Their own solutions had failed. What did they have to lose? Permission granted, Vexera announced, overriding the council's protests with her emergency powers. Dock at Station Alpha 7. Hours later, Vexera stood face to face with Fleet Admiral Chen, a small bipedal being with dark hair streaked with gray and eyes that seemed to contain an impossible depth of determination. Behind her stood a diverse team of humans, each carrying primitive data tablets and wearing practical uniforms that spoke more of function than aesthetics. Your entropy cascade. Chen began without preamble. It's not natural. We've detected quantum signatures that suggest artificial origin. Someone or something is causing this. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled Meridian officials. Their sensors had detected nothing of the sort. How had these primitives seen what they could not? Impossible, one of the Meridian scientists declared. Our quantum arrays are too advanced, Chen interrupted. You're looking for complex patterns, quantum fluctuations, but this is hiding in the background radiation, in the spaces between your measurements. Sometimes the most sophisticated tool isn't the right one for the job. She held up one of their primitive tablets, showing a pattern that made Vexra's markings pulse with sudden understanding. The humans hadn't detected the cascade directly. They'd found its shadow, the subtle distortions it left in normal space-time. We have a plan, Chen continued, but you're not going to like it. It's not elegant. It's not advanced. But we think it will work. Vexra looked at the human admiral, seeing past the primitive exterior to the intelligence burning in those eyes. For the first time since the cascade began, she felt something she had thought lost forever. Hope. Tell me, she said, her markings glowing with renewed purpose. Chen smiled and began to outline a plan so audaciously simple that it just might save the galaxy. The Meridian Empire was about to learn that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't advanced technology or ancient wisdom. Sometimes it's the stubborn refusal of a young species to accept impossible odds. The human element. The massive holographic display in the Stellar Vanguard central chamber painted the room in an eerie blue glow. Fleet Admiral Chen stood before it, her small form casting a long shadow across the crystalline floor. Around her, dozens of Meridian scientists watched with a mixture of skepticism and desperate hope as she outlined humanity's proposal. The entropy cascade isn't just destroying matter, Chen explained, manipulating the hologram with practiced ease despite its alien interface. It's weaponized chaos. Someone is deliberately accelerating entropy in targeted regions of space. Admiral Vexra's bioluminescence flickered with concern. Weaponized. You're suggesting this is an attack. We've seen something similar, though on a much smaller scale, Chen replied, pulling up data from Earth's archives. 15 years ago, we encountered what we called chaos bombs, devices that could accelerate local entropy to destroy specific targets. We developed countermeasures. The Meridian scientists exchanged glances, their crystalline forms shimmering with agitation. One of them, Chief Researcher Navel, stepped forward. With respect, Admiral Chen, our civilization has spent millennia studying quantum mechanics and entropy. How could your species, with barely 1,000 years of spaceflight, have solutions we haven't discovered? Chen smiled, but there was steel in her eyes. Because sometimes the greatest advances come from working with limitations, not despite them. We couldn't build quantum arrays or crystalline computers, so we had to think differently. She gestured to her team. Dr. Patel, would you explain? A woman of Indian descent stepped forward, her hands filled with what looked to the Meridians like absurdly primitive equipment. The essence of entropy is disorder, she began. Your civilization has tried to fight it with order, quantum barriers, temporal locks, probability anchors. But that's like trying to stop a forest fire with more wood. She set up a small device on the floor. It looked almost crude next to the Meridian's biotechnology, all exposed metal and visible circuitry. We propose fighting chaos with chaos, a controlled entropy field that matches the cascade's frequency but runs in reverse phase. Impossible. Navel's markings flashed bright with agitation. The calculations alone would require predicting chaos. Dr. Patil interrupted. You're right. It's impossible to calculate perfectly, so we don't try for perfect. We use adaptive algorithms that surf the edge of chaos, constantly adjusting. It's messy, imprecise, and exactly what we need. Chen stepped back to the hologram, showing simulations of their proposal. Think of it like fighting fire with fire, creating a backburn that starves the main blaze of fuel. We don't try to stop the cascade. We redirect it, let it consume itself. The chamber erupted in argument, Meridian scientists talking over each other in a cascade of musical tones and flashing lights. Vexra watched silently, her tendrils slowly uncoiling as she studied the human proposal. It went against everything her civilization believed about proper scientific advancement. It was inelegant, crude, and possibly brilliant. "The Council will never approve this," Commander Zill warned, his markings pulsing with concern. "It goes against all our protocols." "The Council doesn't have to approve," Vexra replied, her own bioluminescence steadying into a determined glow. "I invoked emergency powers when I allowed the humans to dock. Those powers are still in effect." She turned to Chen. "How soon can you begin?" "We brought everything we need with us," Chen replied. "Those primitive fusion drives your people noticed. They're not just engines. Each one is a chaos surfer, ready to generate controlled entropy fields. We can deploy immediately." "And if it fails?" Navel demanded. "Then we fail trying something new," Chen said firmly, "instead of failing doing the same thing over and over." Vexra moved to the center of the chamber, her form glowing with authority. "Begin preparations. I want the first test ready in 6 hours." She turned to her own crew. "Assist the humans with whatever they need." "That's an order." What followed was unlike anything the Meridians had ever seen. Human engineers swarmed through their pristine crystalline ships, installing decidedly unelegant devices with remarkable efficiency. They worked in organized chaos, teams adapting and improvising as they encountered alien technology. Most shocking to the Meridians was how the humans handled failure. When a system didn't work, they didn't spend hours running simulations and calculating alternatives. They tried something else immediately, learning from each failure and moving forward. "How can you work like this?" Navel asked Dr. Patel as she calibrated another chaos surfer. "There's no protocol, no proper procedure." Patel looked up from her work, hand steady as she made adjustments. "Humanity's greatest advances often came from breaking protocol," she said. "When you're facing the impossible, sometimes you have to write a new rulebook." As the 6-hour mark approached, tension filled the stellar vanguard. 20 human ships had been modified with chaos surfers, ready to attempt their first test against a small section of the entropy cascade. Success could mean salvation for the galaxy. Failure could accelerate the very destruction they sought to prevent. Chen stood on the command deck beside Vexra, both leaders watching as the final preparations were made. "You know," Chen said quietly, "your people keep calling our technology primitive. But sometimes the simplest tool is the right one for the job. A Stone Age lever can move what anti-gravity cannot, if you place it right." Vexra's markings pulsed with what might have been amusement. "If we survive this, Admiral Chen, I believe our civilization has much to learn from yours." "That's the thing about the universe," Chen replied as she gave the signal to begin. "There's always something new to learn, especially from unexpected places." The test was about to begin, and with it, perhaps the first real hope since the cascade began. Humanity's chaotic, imperfect, brilliant solution was about to face the ultimate trial, and the fate of a galaxy hung in the balance. Unity in adversity. The void of space lit up with an otherworldly glow as 20 human ships moved into position around a section of the entropy cascade. From the Stellar Vanguard's observation deck, the scene looked almost beautiful, the crystalline hulls of Meridian vessels reflecting starlight alongside the utilitarian metal of Earth's fleet, all arrayed against the shimmering distortion of the cascade. "All ships report ready," Dr. Patil announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Chaos surfers calibrated and synchronized. Fleet Admiral Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Begin primary sequence. Remember, everyone, this is a controlled test. If anything looks wrong, we pull back immediately." The human ships began generating their entropy fields, creating a complex web of controlled chaos around the target area. The Meridian's advanced sensors struggled to make sense of what they were seeing. Areas where the laws of physics seemed to bend but not break, where order and disorder danced on a quantum knife's edge. "Remarkable," Chief Researcher Neville murmured, his crystalline form vibrating with scientific curiosity. "They're not trying to impose order at all. They're creating a framework of controlled disorder that matches the Cascades pattern." Admiral Vexera watched intently as the human ships adjusted their positions with precise coordination. Like fighting fire with fire, she recalled Chen's earlier words. Her bioluminescence pulsed with a mix of anxiety and hope. The first signs of interaction between the human-generated fields and the cascade appeared as ripples in spacetime itself. The sensors screamed warnings as reality fluctuated in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Several Meridian officers instinctively backed away from their stations, their markings flashing with alarm. "Hold positions," Chen commanded. "This is exactly what we expected. Dr. Patel, begin Phase 2. The human scientist's fingers flew over her console as she made minute adjustments to the Chaos Surfer's output. Phase matching at 67%. 82%. We're approaching critical synchronization. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Commander Zill's markings flashed urgent patterns. "Admiral, the cascade is responding. It's accelerating." "Stay calm." Chen's voice cut through the panic. "This is normal. The cascade is reacting to our presence." "Dr. Patel, phase match at 94%, Patel reported. "Beginning entropy inversion. Now." The space around the test area seemed to fold in on itself, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. The cascade's advance halted, then began to reverse as the human-generated fields forced it to consume itself. "It's working," Neville whispered, his scientific detachment forgotten in the face of what they were witnessing. "They're actually doing it." But success was short-lived. Without warning, the cascade's pattern shifted, adapting to the human intervention. The carefully controlled chaos began to unravel. "Emergency shutdown," Chen ordered, but before the human ships could disengage, a surge of energy pulsed through the area. 3 of the Chaos Surfers overloaded instantly, their ships going dark. "Get those crews out of there," Vexera commanded, already dispatching Meridian rescue vessels. The test ended in apparent failure, with 3 damaged human ships being towed to safety and the cascade continuing its inexorable advance, though notably slower than before. The command deck of the Stellar Vanguard was silent save for the soft hum of emergency systems. But when Chen turned to face the Meridian leaders, she was smiling. "Did you see that?" "See what?" Zyle demanded, his markings still flashing with residual alarm. "The failure. The nearly lost ships." "No," Chen replied, walking to the main display. "The adaptation. The cascade changed its pattern when we attacked it. It reacted." Vexera's tendrils unfurled as understanding dawned. "It's not just a weapon. It's controlled," Chen confirmed. "There's intelligence behind it, and now we know something even more important. It can be hurt. It had to adapt to defend itself." The implications rippled through the command deck. The Meridians had been treating the cascade as a natural phenomenon, albeit an artificial one. But if it was actively controlled, actively responding to threats, "We need to combine our approaches," Chen continued, her eyes alight with new possibilities. "Your quantum arrays can detect the cascade's adaptations faster than our sensors. Our Chaos Surfers can disrupt its patterns. Working together, we can trace the control signal back to its source," Patel finished, already pulling up new calculations. "Find whoever or whatever it is directing this weapon." Vexera moved to stand beside Chen, her bioluminescence synchronizing unconsciously with the human admiral's determined expression. "You did not come here just to help us contain this threat," she said. "It wasn't a question." "No," Chen admitted. "We came to end it. But we need your help. Your technology, combined with our approach." She gestured to where human and Meridian crews were already working together to rescue the damaged ships, 2 vastly different species united by crisis. Together, Vexra agreed, her markings glowing with renewed purpose. But the Council will have to adapt, Chen said firmly. Just like we all have to adapt. The universe doesn't care about protocols or traditions, or who has the most advanced technology. It cares about results. As if to emphasize her words, the cascade pulsed in the distance, a reminder of the threat they faced. But now, watching human and Meridian crews working in seamless cooperation, sharing knowledge and resources without regard for technological disparities, Vexra felt something she hadn't experienced since this crisis began. The first stirring of genuine hope. Breaking point. Deep in the modified engineering bay of the Stellar Vanguard, a peculiar fusion of technologies had taken shape. Meridian quantum arrays, their crystalline structures pulsing with complex calculations, were wired directly into human chaos surfers. The room itself seemed to reflect the unlikely partnership. Pristine bioengineered surfaces cluttered with Earth-made tools and equipment, elegant alien interfaces alongside rugged human computers. The signal is there, Dr. Patil insisted, gesturing at a holographic display that overlaid Meridian quantum readings with human chaos theory projections. Every time we probe the cascade, there's a response. Not just adaptation, but actual command and control signals. Chief Researcher Navel's crystalline form shifted in what humans had learned to recognize as agreement. Yes, but they're buried in quantum noise. Even with our combined sensors, tracking them to their source seems impossible. Impossible is just a word that hasn't met humanity yet, Fleet Admiral Chen said as she entered the bay. Admiral Vexra closed behind. Both leaders showed signs of exhaustion. Chen's eyes were dark-rimmed, while Vexra's bioluminescence had dimmed to a bare glimmer. The past 48 hours had been brutal. 3 more star systems had fallen to the cascade while they worked, billions more lives hanging in the balance. The Meridian Council was demanding results, and even Chen's emergency authorization was wearing thin. "Show me the latest data," Chen requested, studying the complex overlapping patterns. Her expression hardened. "There's a pattern here we're missing. Something about the way it responds." "Admiral," a young human technician called out suddenly. "I think I found something weird in the background radiation." All eyes turned to his station, where he was running a surprisingly simple analysis program. "I was thinking about old Earth radio telescopes," he explained, slightly nervous under the attention. "How they used to filter out cosmic background radiation. But what if we don't filter it? What if we look at how the cascade affects it?" Patil rushed to his station, eyes widening as she saw the results. "Of course, we've been looking for complex quantum signals, but the control mechanism might be using the simplest possible medium. The background radiation of space itself." Navil's form practically vibrated with excitement as he examined the data. Yes, like hiding a message in noise by becoming part of the noise. Our sensors would never have looked for something so basic. "Can we trace it?" Vexra asked, her markings pulsing with renewed energy. "Better," Chen said, a fierce smile crossing her face. "We can hijack it. Dr. Patel, how quickly can we modify the chaos surfers to broadcast on these frequencies?" "Hours, maybe less with Meridian help." "But Admiral," Patel hesitated, "if we do this, we'll be linking our systems directly to whatever's controlling the cascade. The feedback could be devastating." "We don't have a choice," Chen replied. "The cascade's accelerating. We have to find its source now, or there won't be a galaxy left to save." The next 6 hours were a blur of activity as human and Meridian crews worked to modify their combined fleet. The chaos surfers were reprogrammed to broadcast false signals into the background radiation, while Meridian quantum arrays were recalibrated to track the cascade's response. "Think of it like calling out in a dark room," Patil explained to the combined fleet crews. "We make a noise, listen for the echo, and use that to find where our enemy is hiding." Finally, everything was ready. The combined fleet took up position around a section of the cascade, every ship equipped with the modified systems. On the Stellar Vanguard's command deck, Chen and Vexra stood side by side, watching the final preparations. If this fails, Vexra said quietly, the feedback could destroy every ship in the fleet. It won't fail, Chen replied with characteristic human certainty. Because it can't. We're out of alternatives and out of time. At her signal, the fleet activated their modified chaos servers. The background radiation of space itself seemed to shiver as they broadcast their challenge to whatever intelligence lurked behind the cascade. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the cascade rippled, its pattern shifting in response to their signal. The quantum arrays lit up as they traced the control signals back through space. Contact, Navel shouted, his form blazing with excitement. The signals are coming by the Founders. The holographic display showed a location deep in what had been considered empty space, a region that didn't exist on any star chart, hidden behind veils of distorted spacetime. But before they could celebrate their discovery, every system on the fleet began to overload. The cascade wasn't just responding, it was attacking, using their own connection to try to destroy them. It's trying to burn out our systems, Patel yelled over the sound of failing equipment. The feedback is too strong. Chen's voice cut through the chaos. Direct all power to the chaos surfers. If it wants to burn us out, let's give it something to burn. That will destroy the fleet. Commander Zell protested. No, Vexra interrupted, her markings pulsing with sudden understanding. It will give us exactly what we need. She turned to her crew. Divert all power from our quantum arrays, every scrap of energy we have. Give it to the human ships. Understanding dawned across the command deck. They weren't trying to protect themselves from the feedback. They were going to ride it, use it to amplify their own signal to levels that would have been impossible otherwise. The Cascade's attack became their weapon, its attempt to destroy them becoming the key to finding its source. As systems overloaded and ships groaned under the strain, the location signal grew stronger and clearer. In the heart of that hidden region of space, something ancient stirred, realizing too late that its attack had become its undoing. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity's chaotic brilliance had changed the game entirely. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. Legacy of Hope. The combined fleet emerged from emergency faster than light travel into a region of space that shouldn't have existed. Here, between the stars, hidden behind veils of distorted reality, they found something that defied comprehension. A structure larger than a solar system hung in the void, its surface a maze of geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. It wasn't built of matter as either humans or Meridians understood it. It seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, like a quantum particle refusing to collapse into a single form. By all the Founders, Vexra whispered, her bioluminescence flickering with awe and fear. What is it? Something old, Chen replied, studying the readings on her display. Something that's been waiting out here, testing defenses, looking for civilizations to target. Her eyes narrowed. Something that picked the wrong galaxy to attack. The structure was already reacting to their presence. The entropy cascade, which had been consuming the galaxy bit by bit, began to pull back, concentrating its power here at its source. Space itself writhed as reality began to unravel around them. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Navel reported, his crystalline form vibrating with tension. It's preparing to release a cascade wave orders of magnitude stronger than anything we've seen. If it hits us. It won't, Chen interrupted. She turned to Dr. Patel. Are the modifications ready? Patel nodded, her hand steady on her console despite the enormous pressure. All ships are linked. The Chaos Surfers are synchronized with the Meridian quantum arrays. But Admiral, this is a one-way trip. Once we start, there's no shutting it down. A one-way trip for someone, Chen agreed. She looked at Vexra. Are your people ready? The Meridian Admiral's markings pulsed with fierce determination. We've evacuated all non-essential personnel. The crews that remained. They understand the stakes. The plan was audacious, perhaps insane. They would use the combined fleet as one massive chaos surfer, creating a controlled entropy field larger than any ever attempted. The Meridian ships would use their quantum technology to shape and direct it, while the human vessels provided the raw chaos needed to match the ancient structure's power. All ships, Chen's voice rang out across the fleet. Final positions. Remember, we're not trying to destroy it. We're going to give it exactly what it wants, just much more than it can handle. The fleet moved into formation, Meridian crystalline ships and human vessels arranging themselves in a complex three-dimensional pattern. As they did, the structure released its attack, a wave of pure entropy that would have reduced a star system to random particles. But this time, they were ready. Now, Chen commanded. Every ship in the fleet activated their modified systems simultaneously. Instead of trying to block or deflect the entropy wave, they matched it, amplified it, and reflected it back at its source. The void filled with impossible patterns as ordered chaos met ancient power. The structure tried to adapt, just as they'd predicted. But they had learned from their earlier encounters. Every time it changed its pattern, the fleet changed with it, the hybrid human Meridian technology allowing them to match its adaptations instantly. "It's working," Patil shouted over the sound of straining systems. "The structure's trying to process too many entropy patterns at once. It can't maintain quantum coherence." On the main display, they watched as the impossible geometry of the structure began to fluctuate wildly. It was caught in its own trap, unable to handle the chaos it had tried to unleash on the galaxy. "All ships, full power," Chen ordered. "Don't let up." The combined fleet pushed their systems beyond their limits, pouring every scrap of energy they had into the attack. Human chaos surfers began to burn out, their components fusing under the strain. Meridian quantum arrays shattered, their crystalline structures unable to handle the feedback. But it was enough. With a silent flash that rippled through dimensions humans and Meridians had never even imagined, the ancient structure finally lost its battle with entropy. It didn't explode or collapse. It simply ceased to be, its quantum state finally collapsing into true randomness. In its wake, the entropy cascade that had threatened the galaxy dissipated like fog in morning sunlight. The fleet was devastated. Half the ships were dead in space, their systems burned out completely. The others were badly damaged, barely maintaining life support. But they had won. Hours later, as rescue ships arrived from across the galaxy, Chen and Vexera stood together on the observation deck of the Stellar Vanguard, watching the cleanup operation. "The Council is in an uproar," Vexera said, her markings showing a mix of amusement and exhaustion. "They don't know whether to celebrate our victory or panicking about the implications. An entropy weapon that predates our civilization. A threat we couldn't handle without. How did your scientist put it? Primitive human chaos theory. They'll adapt," Chen replied with a slight smile. "That's what living things do. And maybe this is exactly what both our civilizations needed, a reminder that age and advancement aren't everything. Sometimes you need a fresh perspective, a different way of thinking." Indeed, Vexera's form shifted in what Chen had learned was the Meridian equivalent of a thoughtful nod. "The Council has already approved a permanent exchange program. Your chaos theorists working with our quantum physicists. It will be interesting." "Interesting," Chen agreed. "That's one word for it." She looked out at the stars, stars that would now continue to shine, thanks to the combined efforts of two very different civilizations. "You know what I think the real lesson is here." "What's that?" "The universe is vast and full of wonders and horrors. But no matter what's out there, no matter how advanced or ancient or powerful, there's always hope, because there's always another way to look at a problem, another approach no one's tried yet." She smiled. "And sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places." Vexera's markings pulsed in agreement. In the distance, human and Meridian crews worked together to repair their ships, two species separated by vast gulfs of technology and culture, united by courage, determination, and the simple refusal to give up in the face of impossible odds. The galaxy was safe, and something new had been born in the crucible of crisis, a partnership that would reshape the future in ways neither civilization could have imagined alone. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, other ancient things stirred, sensing the change. But now, when they emerge, they would find something unexpected waiting for them. A galaxy where advanced technology and primitive innovation had learned to work together, where the impossible had become merely another problem to solve. A galaxy it refused to quit.